Hey, it feels different, right?
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of Fantasy Sports. Today I'm going to be getting into some fantasy football breakouts and busts. I obviously didn't get to do an episode last week and I apologize for that. Just moving back to school is a bit hectic. I wasn't really sure if I should post, if I shouldn't post, but I definitely decided that I should take a week off and come back full-fledged and be able to give you guys a good episode today. Today, obviously, like I said, I want to do breakouts and busts for fantasy. And I tried to focus a little bit on players that aren't going in the first 5 rounds. It's hard for me. I don't want to do breakouts of players that are going to go in the 12th round that it's like, the running back for the Devon Archain or whatever his name is for the Miami Dolphins, who, has potential and he could break out, but it's like you're not taking him in the top 10 rounds. Or first 8 rounds. You're just not taking him then. And I feel like, a little bit, of help with the earlier rounds is important because those are usually the players that wind up winning you your season, even though I did draft Todd Gurley and Justin Jefferson in the late rounds when they both broke out. Different story, but let's start with some busts. I know my family and my cousins are not going to like this one, but I definitely got George Pickens as a bust. I think the first thing to say about George Pickens is he has the talent to be a breakout. Obviously, he's a second-round pick out of the 2022 NFL draft last year, and he had a really solid, rookie season. He has an average draft pick around, late, 6th round, 76, to 80. I think Pickens' route profile leaves room for concern. I think that's what my biggest thing was. He's very deep ball dependent. He had average depth of target at 15.7, and that ranked 3rd among NFL receivers last year. Obviously, I do think Kenny Pickett's going to take the gap this year. And I think he's going to take a big step up. He was actually one of my players who had breakouts. But until Kenny Pickett proves that he can consistently make those downfield throws this year, I think in general, Pickens is below Brandon Cooks and players like Deontay Johnson on the draft board. I think Deontay, even Freiermuth, go ahead of him just based off of value and what they will do in an offense that better suits them. I think Johnson definitely better fits Pickett, and I think Cooks will fit the model that he's going to this year. I'm super excited to see what Kenny Pickett can do. I am super excited for this Steelers offense. I know that I have him low. He had a poor quarterback play last year, I would argue, and he had 52 passes for 801 yards and 4 scores. And that was a bad offense. So at the end of the day, I do think he could obviously get up from there. Will he get up from there? That's the debate. I'm not sure if he tops 1,100 or even 1,000 yards this year. I do want to see him get more involved in the red zone, and I definitely want to see more touchdowns from the Steelers this year. But with that said, I gotta say that I don't see him taking that enormous gap without Kenny Pickett. Then my second bust, or player who I'm not taking as early as he's going, is Panthers running back Miles Sanders. He signed a 4-year, $25.4 million contract with the Panthers. He had a pretty much career season last year. He had 1,269 yards, 30% more than his season high, or near season high. He goes from one of the best offenses in the NFL to a pretty much retooled bottom 5 offense in Carolina. Obviously, the Eagles had a run-eccentric offense last year that led to one of the highest touchdowns scored, which was 8 higher, closer to 8 more than the next highest, which was the Cowboys at 24. Sanders had 11 rushing scores in 17 games last year. 2 came at 3 scoring games, which means he led 5 touchdowns over the course of 14 games. Obviously, that's 2 more than he did in 40 games over his first 3 seasons, and I don't think there's any guarantee that he's going to take the success he had last year and bring it to Carolina. Obviously, last year was his first 1,000-yard season, and I think, rookie Bryce Young at quarterback will halt a little bit of what he can do, as well as the offensive line. I do think at some point they will get him more involved in the passing game, but I just don't think he's going at the 5th-round value right now. I just see him as more of a back-end running back, maybe flex type of guy. I wasn't too confident in him last year, and I should have been. I think I wound up trading him, actually. It's just one of those things where I love the player, but I don't love trusting him on a weekly basis, and I don't think he's going to perform as people expect him to this upcoming year. And then this is a player who I'm on edge about. I thought he fitted right in between breakout and bust, and I think that's Gabe Davis. I think he came off of a pretty bad year last year. He had 48 catches, 836 yards, and 7 touchdowns, which is pretty good for catching in the end zone. But obviously they have him as a potential 1,000-yard player, and I just don't see that happening. I do see him potentially scoring a lot in the red zone. As such, Devontae Adams had those 17 touchdowns that one year, but he still had a lot of yards. I do think at the end of the day, he's a top 100 pick. I do think he has value, and I do think if he's going to take any step up, it's going to be this year. So that's why I have him in the middle, because I don't see him getting that 1,000 yards, but with the offense that he's in, it's hard to argue that he couldn't. So I am interested to see what he can do. They have new players on this team, and I think, at the end of the day, looking at a team that has, just drafted a rookie tight end, has Dawson Knox, Diggs, James Cook, Josh Allen, who loves to run the ball himself, I think the target share could look a little different this year. And obviously there are players in front of him who can, very much be, or behind him that can very much be his same value. That's Juju, Dubs, who I was a big sleeper this year. I think people are really not considering the fact that there are 2 wide receivers on the Packers. There's another wide receiver other than Christian Watson, and I do think Jordan Love's in for a big year as well. But yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Gabe Davis can do. That's why I had him in the middle. I'm not, not sold on him, and I'm not upset about what he can do. So I'm definitely interested in a potential breakout for him. And then these are my 2 breakout players. I have Javonte Williams, and I have Chigozie Okonkwo for the Titans. Javonte Williams is one of the best running backs in the league before his ACL and LCL tear. He was excellent at making defenders miss. He had 3.8 avoided tackles over the first 2 seasons, and that was 5th among running backs, despite being in a committee nearly every game. Obviously, I do think it's hard to question what he's going to do this upcoming year with the signing of Samaje Perine. I don't think the Broncos invested much into the running back position even after Williams' injury. So I definitely see that Sean Payton, who has turned the Saints running backs who were targeted 2,276 times from 2006 to 2021, which is 300 times more than any other team. I do think he will definitely get Javonte Williams involved a bit more. I'm excited to see what he can do, especially since he avoided the pup list. I know a lot of people were concerned about that. I was definitely concerned about that. And I think Perine is the kind of running back that even if Williams is 100% healthy, Williams is going to play as many snaps as the Broncos would give him. Last year, in week 4, he played 23 of 25 possible snaps in the first half. So it seemed likely that he was going to take over as Breece Hall did last year. So I'm super excited to see what he can do this year in an offense that should be a little revamped and a little renewed with the new coach, Sean Payton. Looking at Chigozie Okonkwo, he definitely had a mini breakout in the back half of last year. He posted 10 or more points in his last 4 of 6 games, and that includes a 6-catch, 1 touchdown, 18.5-point effort against the Jaguars in Week 14. I think there's very weak offensive weapons on the side of the offense for the Titans. You only really got Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, and Treylon Burks. That definitely leaves a lot of value in, Okonkwo, especially because Derrick Henry's not a pass-catching running back. DeAndre Hopkins a little more short field, and Treylon Burks is downfield. You got Okonkwo, who could really run the red zone and inside the 20-yard line, or that is the red zone, who could definitely run upside the seams, or in the seams and the red zone. I'm super excited to see what he can do as well. I think at the value that he's going, he's definitely one of probably 8th round, 9th round, 10th round pick, and I think he could wind up being a top 7 tight end, just with what he did in the back half of last season. So I'm super excited to see it as well. But to finish off what I was going to say about breakouts and busts, I think I feel like I should list a couple early ones that I was looking at. That being Garrett Wilson. I think Garrett Wilson's in for a big year. I think Olave's in for a big year. And I feel like a lot of people are saying the same thing, that Olave and Garrett Wilson are in for a big year. But I think it needs to be restated. I think it's just so important that these people are going in the second round. They can honestly be first-round values. The one player that I'm taking in top 4 this year is definitely Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill is one of those players that's wanting for a long time now to just take that insane. He had a really good season last year, but I think he wanted that 2,000 yards, and Tua was giving him the heavy target share in the beginning of the season to get there. So I'm definitely interested in seeing what he could do with Tua healthy and with Jalen Waddle, alongside all the weapons they have on defense and offense, just continue in a strong division to play well. If there's anyone else I missed that you guys like as breakouts, I definitely missed players. I didn't want to talk about everyone. Who do I think is a bust? I don't think Jacobs is a bust. I think a lot of people are marking him off because he had a big season last year. But I don't see why he wouldn't have a decent season this year. The only thing they did was get rid of Derek Carr. And, I mean, did Derek Carr really help him that much? Yeah, I mean, but Jimmy G's not that bad. I mean, obviously, clearly Jimmy G's been in a lot of running offenses where running backs have been good. So I don't know why Josh Jacobs is this all of a sudden, oh, he's not going to perform as good. They're going to suck. I mean, they sucked last year, and he was the best running back. So I don't get it. But in general, I'm definitely excited to see this NFL season. Definitely excited to see who winds up finishing as the Offensive Player of the Year, who winds up being the Fantasy Player of the Year. Will Eckler lead the league in touchdowns again? I'm super excited. So as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And I'm super excited to have a guest next week. I know you guys will be excited to see who it is as well. So especially tune in next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Thank you as always. Goodbye.